Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you start, sir?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Kaushik sir, can we start?
Yes, sir. Can you start, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Dr. John, welcome.
Yeah.
You have to welcome, sir.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, warm good evening to one and all present over here. Today we are very happy to have the 57th webinar organized by the Qcrete Ready Mix Concrete in association with ICA Kochi chapter. Today we have fortunate to have a great personality, a great orator with us, Dr. Manmohan Kalgal. He was in concrete industry for almost 40 years and the past president of ICI, and he retired as the head of technical services Ultratech Limited. After that also he is very active in training the young budding engineers, then as a consultant and advisor. Concrete is changing a lot now day by day. If we are looking back to earlier period, 20 years back, nobody was using a concrete with more than 25 or 50 slump, and everybody was using M15 or M20 grade of concrete. In early 2000s, the ready mix concrete came into play, and we are started to talking about pouring concrete of 100 or 150 slump. Then the self-compacting concrete come into play. We are talking about a spread of 600 to 700 So again, earlier we were using, I told you, 15 to 20 Newton per square. So, and now there are companies in India who are producing concrete of M150 grades and supplying to commercial products as ultra high performance concrete. Again, the developments are coming. Now the latest trend is to go for architectural and decorative concrete. Earlier people has a concept of or thinking that concrete is gray, dark, ugly and massive. But lots of engineers and architects works together to make the concrete a decorative, innovative one. Now you can see that lots of exposed concrete works, then colored concrete, then stamped concrete, all these things. So today we have the right person with us to discuss with these innovations in concrete. And he was instrumental in many of these achievements in the area of concrete technology. So with immense pleasure, I invite Dr. Manmohan Kalgal sir for this program. And with one word, I'm not explaining because he has to cover a lot of things. So with one word, I invite all the participants present over here, and a special thanks to Engineer Kaushika sir, who took all the strain to organize and being with us for this program. Thank you, sir. With this, I'm handing over to Kaushika sir for introducing the speaker of the day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Elson John. Today is one of the most memorable evenings for Qcrete Concrete India Private Limited, and it is our, I can say, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Kalgal sir with us, who easily agreed with when I requested him to give this wonderful lecture on architectural and decorative concrete. I don't take much time, but even though most of the fraternity in concrete students all over India know Dr. Kalgal sir, it is my duty and responsibility to just introduce Dr. Kalgal sir. Dr. Kalgal sir did ME in pre-stressed concrete. He finished PhD in concrete structures from very, I can say, one of the best institutes in India, Indian Institute of Science. Spent more than 20 years in teaching, research and consultancy. He was professor in civil engineering in MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore. Moved from academics to industry in 2003. He was heading technical division of pre-stressing company, very well known, BBR India, till 2007. And then he joined Ultratech Cement Limited. And whenever we all know that whenever Dr. Kalgal is heard, we remember that he spent most of his time in Ultratech as head of building products division, and later he became joint president and head technical services. And even after retirement and superannuation, he continued as technical advisor to Ultratech till October 2021. Presently, he is practicing as an independent consultant and technical advisor. He is actively involved in several professional bodies, fellow of Indian Association of Structural Engineers and ex-VP South, fellow of Association of Consulting Engineers India, ex-Secretary General, member of Indian Concrete Institute ICA, and was president of ICA 2015 to 17. Was VP of Asian Concrete Federation ACF for years 2017 to 18. Actively involved in several organizing several national and international conferences. And in fact, 2009, Dr. Kalgal sir might have forgotten, he made a wonderful lecture on GGBS utilization in Indian Concrete Institute, Madras. And I can say one of the best lectures I have heard on GGBS concrete. Especially, he explained about the white topping and albedo number, etc. He has been honored with Eminent Engineer Award by Institution of Engineers India at the annual convention 2018. And there was a conference dedicated to him in his name in 2019 March in Qcrete Concrete Congress, one of the prestigious concrete congress held in India. He was presented the Lifetime Achievement Award by ICA in September 2022. His achievements will take, if we go on talking, it will take long time actually. So because the time is short, I'm handing over. And once again, we thank you on behalf of Qcrete India Private Limited, also on behalf of ICA Cochin chapter, for coming over, accepting and delivering this wonderful lecture. Thanks and welcome, sir.
A very good evening to everyone. I hope my slide is seen and my voice is heard. One of you can confirm. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kaushik, and thank you, Dr. Elson John. The introduction was too elaborate; it was not required. I'm very happy to participate in this webinar series, which is brought in very many very good speakers on various topics and organized by Qcrete and ICI Kochi. And very happy that I'm also a part of that now. So without much spending time on the preliminaries, let me get into the colorful journey of the architectural and decorative concrete. That is what I have taken up as the topic for today. Let me see how I can cover. This is a very large subject by itself, although it appears to be a new branch of concrete technology. It's not so very new, as you will see when I go forward. So I've used two words, architectural concrete and decorative concrete. So what's the difference? As per PCA, any concrete which provides an aesthetic finish and also serves as a structural function is called architectural concrete. So most of the structural concrete, which is also made to look good, as Dr. Elson John was saying, it is no longer opaque, ugly, and massive. It can be very slender, very nice looking, and also very functional. And that is what is architectural concrete for you. We will look at some of the examples as we go forward. And decorative concrete is typically the flat work of, or building elements which are not structural in nature, but they are embellishing the concrete, and they are trying to make it look very, very attractive and very long lasting at that. So what's colored concrete all about? It's not a gray material, as was said earlier, and this could be used as a base for further surface finishes. That's what people thought. But now there are endless possibilities of decoration of concrete surface possible. And simple integrated pigmented concrete is the most common example, and simple decorative concrete or even architectural concrete sometimes, as you can see. So this is a concrete which has color built into it. So there are many other techniques of surface finishing which are available to improve the aesthetics. We will see as we go forward. So in colored concrete, basically, which started somewhere around 1915, it's quite some time. I mean, like we are already in 2022, so it's more than 100 years old, this colored concrete. So a person by name Lynn Mason Scofield, he started manufacturing the colors for concrete in Chicago to make this decorative concrete. So the products contained color hardeners like cement, color wax, aggregate broadcast, all of that which we are using now. He thought of it right at the beginning, somewhere around 1915, including chemical stains and sealers and so on. So this person moved his office and manufacturing facilities to Los Angeles because a lot of rich people were there, and very many noted people started using his technology and colored concrete. So making colored concrete famous in those parts of the world. In 1950s, there's another company by name FT Davis, which introduced the idea of adding synthetic iron oxide, which was a waste product, into gray concrete to get a whole range of earthy colors or earthen tone colors. And the next revolution was also somewhere in 1950s. Brad Bowman brought in the concept of stamped concrete, which he introduced texture and embossing in the world of decorative concrete. Before that, it was only coloring and staining and dyeing and so on. So he also brought in this texture changes and bringing in patterns and so on and so forth. So he gave a whole vista of advantages and beauty that could be brought in, and he set up platform stamps which could imprint multiple units at a time instead of going unit by unit. He brought in a huge setup of platform stamps, and earlier, of course, they started with wood as the wood and then sheet metal, then they came to aluminum platforms also. Then came John Nasvik, who developed the stamps made from other materials like urethane and so on and so forth, which were much lighter, more durable, more repeatability, and so on and so forth. So in 1970s, he improved the concrete stamping by introduced plastic stamps. So it became easier to imprint the patterns and add texture to the fresh concrete. So one of the main inventions that helped the stamp concrete was the Stegmaier's invention of release powder, because the concrete would stick to stamp formworks and it was very difficult to manage. So he brought in this concept of release powder, which made the architectural concrete, decorative concrete, much attractive. So if we look at how the fresh concrete gets colored, basically, the integrally colored concrete, what we say, is not a dye or a stain or a paint. Basically, they are pigments, and they are either mined from ground or manufactured in chemical plants around the world, and they are available in powder, liquid, and granular form. We can't say that one is better than the other. All of them are equally good in their own niche areas of application. So when color is added to the cement-based mix, smaller pigment particles will cover the larger cement particle, and these pigment particles are very fine, almost 10 times smaller than the particle of cement. So very micro, nano kind of materials, and they coat the cement particles with whatever color they can. So how this product works and major factors that affect the final outcome is very important to avoid and fix problems. There are a lot of disillusionments in colored concrete and decorative concretes, and that happens mostly because we don't understand exactly what are the factors that affect the final outcome of this pigment adding or making it integrally bound. So pigments are, what are they? They are made from both natural and synthetic iron oxide, cobalt, titanium dioxide, chromium oxide, so on and so forth. And depending on what you are using, you get different colors. So I have written there as to what iron oxides can give, cobalt pigments can give, white color and green color, of course, from titanium and chromium oxide, and so on and so forth. So the brown stands and coppers, etc., and other colors, they can be used by iron oxide pigments and so on and so forth. So these colored pigments are water wettable, light fast, that is, they don't get affected by exposure to light, they are alkali resistant, and they will not negatively affect the firmness and strength of the cement, because these are required. They should be water wettable because the concrete is all about water and the other part, solid parts, and it's always exposed to light if it is used outside, and alkali is plenty in concrete, and we don't want to compromise on strength and firmness or the dimensional stability of concrete. So these colored pigments should follow these principles, and to create the multitude of colors, these pigments are combined together many a times in certain ratio. Just like in the paint industry, you can mix and match and get all kinds of hues in the colors that you are looking at. So the concentration, of course, should be within the range of 10% of the weight, not more than that, but they can create dramatic effects within that range. So these pigments obviously will have to be inexpensive, non-toxic, and they don't fade easily. And there is a possibility that gradually the use of iron oxide has been replaced by other synthetic pigments, because they are available, they are easily obtainable and very consistent compared to the iron oxide pigments that are available in the market. So the different forms of pigments are in the powder form or crystalline or granular form, and also in liquid form, these pigments are available. And they work in all the three different forms, and they require, of course, different handling process, and composition will be different when you are getting into the experiment of making a mixed design. So what are the factors that affect the concrete color? Basically, the water cement ratio. Many people don't realize that water cement ratio also has a role in color control. So it is because we are dealing with the dilution of pigments by adding or reducing the water. The water cement ratio that you add for concrete can have certain effect on this here. So making sure that the amount of water is exactly what is required, just the right amount, is extremely important to get a consistent color. So if the water cement ratio changes from panel to panel, you will have different colors, obviously. So water on the surface is also extremely important while finishing. The water that bleeds out or comes out like latex can also have effect on the color. So the surface is drying out too fast, then we will have to use some surface evaporative control agents to handle the evaporation. So the cement color also impacts the final color. Obviously, every one of us know that cement is generally in various hues of gray, and of course, if it is having a little bit of GGBS, it's tending to be on the lighter side. If it is having fly ash, it's tending to be on the darker side, and if it is pure OPC, obviously it will be greenish gray, and so on and so forth. And this color, when added with the pigments, will determine what is the final output of the color that we get. So if gray cement is used, it has to overpower that pigment, has to overpower the natural gray color. But what people try to do is, they try to go for deeper earth-like tones, so that with little ease you can manage to get a color which is in tune with the natural color of the cement. So another thing to consider is that not all gray cements are of the same shade. As I mentioned, the different types of cements can have different shades, depending even on the limestone and the quality of manufacture, the source, and so on and so forth. So the cement color, as you have seen as engineers, varies even from company to company, in fact within a company, from batch to batch. So we have to make sure that if possible the cement is of the same brand, same distributor, and for the same time period, and so on and so forth. This is one of the most tricky issues in making sure that you deliver concrete of the color that you have promised to the client. The only good way to have lighter appearance is obviously to use white cement, because then you will have little difficulty in getting the other hues. In gray, it's very difficult to get a lot many lighter colors. It's most of them are darker colors, especially dark red and earthen red and so on and so forth. And then another factor that affects the concrete color is the curing. Now, how you do the curing, whether it is intermittent, when there is a drying and wetting, all of these will decide the color inconsistencies. See, what is very important is that when you are putting color to a large surface area, the changes can be very easily seen by a naked eye, though you may not realize over a period of time, and that can bring very bad name to the colored concrete. So so a lot of people use colored curing compounds or color wax, to see if they can get a uniformity. That also should match with the color that you're having. So this base concrete can't be of one color and color wax is of some other color. It has to be matching, obviously. So you have to make sure that the curing compound is blush resistant and non-yellowing when you are using it with colored concrete. There are other miscellaneous factors like subbase preparation, placement, finish, maintenance. Everything affects the color of concrete. And one idea is to add bands of different texture. That is, you make patterns in such a way that if it is a uniform single color, the change in color is very easy to observe. But if you create bands of different texture or color, then the inconsistencies are a little hidden or not noticeable. It's also a good idea to have a dry shake color hardener, and this can make the color appear more uniform with fewer inconsistencies. So one is making sure that the concrete as laid is uniform in color with less inconsistencies. Then it is also cured and maintained in such a way that it doesn't get faded over a period of time, and that too faded to different shades. This is very common in colored concrete. So now let us look at what are dyes and stains. Now dyes and stains are the colors that we impart on an existing concrete. So that is different from the integral concrete, colored concrete, which we discussed just now, which has to do with the pigments that go into the concrete. Here it is, color which goes onto the concrete. So there are two types. One is called the dye, and the other one is called a stain. So dyes are the ones which are like powder form, and they can be dispersed onto water or a solvent for application. So there's something like painting on the concrete, but it's not exactly paint. Stains are the ones which are which penetrate into the concrete to a larger depth, and they used to tint and shade the texture of the existing concrete. So there is subtle difference between dyes and stains. So there are three types of stains. One is called the film forming stain, the other one is the acid stain, and the other one is called the penetrating type of stain. So what it does to the concrete, whether it forms a film over it, or it acid etches, or it penetrates, will decide the type of stains that you can use. So the film forming stains will coat or lay on top of, as the name suggests, but it can peel off or chip away with exposure to things like foot traffic or harsh weather conditions. Penetrating stains are more permanent solutions than film forming, obviously, and they penetrate deeper into porous concrete surface. Acid stains react chemically, so they change the the chemistry there at the surface, and this results in what is called as the concrete etching, and it creates a fantastic finish. We can see some photographs later, marbled, mottled, or textured appearance. Now, stains are reactive. It's a chemical that reacts with the concrete itself and produces an unpredictable color. So you have to do a lot of experiment to see what color ultimately comes out with what kind of stain. It's not like dyes. Dyes kind of are the coatings which may give you the desired color, but then stains are more permanent, but you have to do some experiments. Dyes results in predictable color, as I was saying. If you select brown, then you're going to get brown, and so on and so forth. Now, some photographs of stained concrete, you can see that all of these actually are not tiles or vitrified tiles or other things, but these are actually on the bare concrete. The staining has been done with such a dramatic effect. So it can be a simple dark finish like the right hand bottom, or it could be a light color as it is on the left side bottom, or it could be a mix and match of light and dark, as you can see in the central photograph. And the beauty is that this is permanent. This, especially the interior concretes for the floors, because they are not even affected by the sunlight, or for next as long as the concrete lasts, the finish also lasts. So that is the beauty, and you can polish these surfaces to a very smooth finish, and it will look as if it is a waxed floor. There is also possibility of staining the concrete using stencils, as you can see in the second photograph, there are stencils which are made onto which the stains are put, and these get in and form, as you see on the right most edge, the carpet like appearance that you see is not a carpet. Basically it is a stained concrete surface. Very dramatic, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't look as if it is made of concrete at all. So this is how you can create wonders on the floors, and maximum experimentation in colored concrete, especially decorative concrete, happens on the floor. So the polished, I mentioned about this polishing. Uh, there are now equipments available which can polish the concrete to a very fine finish, whether it is an industrial structure or a commercial structure or a residential structure, depending on what kind of surface you want to create. Of course, if you want to create a non-slippery surface, you may not go for such a hard grind of the polish, but otherwise it can still be very, very elegant looking. As you can see in this photograph, the reflective surface creates a fantastic appearance when you look at it. So this is generally used as an interior flooring, but architects are also pushing it to do it on walls, patio floors, and even large exterior panels. They are trying to do polished concrete, polished colored concrete. So this can be created in a variety of ways. As I mentioned, the least expensive is to grind and seal. That is, you create just like you used to do mosaic floor polishing earlier. You used to use different coarseness of the grinding wheel and go for a fine finish. Of course, here people go for very many stages, maybe 5, 6, 7 layers of grinding they do, with of course penetrating sealer to create a reflective surface once the grinding is complete. So mechanically polished concrete is the one which is used in commercial projects, and it is long lasting, more durable under very heavy foot traffic and so on and so forth. So what we use is what is called as a densifier, chemical hardener, which densifies the porous concrete. And then because when you grind, it can't be soft. It has to be very hard so that the uniform grinding can happen. So this desired gloss is obtained after powder, chemical hardeners are put on top, and then the grinding is done. Series of, as I said, series of progressive fine tools are used of different grit levels to get the polish that you are looking at. Another consideration is the exposure level. That is what I meant by how much is ground away and how much is exposed, because the material also has various hues as it gets into the depth of, because if you go much deeper, you will be exposing the coarse aggregates and then you get a different pattern, whereas if you stick within the top surface, it will be of different exposure itself. So there are class A, class B, class C, etc. type of finishes where you get different types of colors and different types of finishes and appearances. So main selling point of polished concrete, as I said, is absolutely almost no maintenance required. It's smooth and hard surface, and as long as the concrete lasts, this finish also will last. So it's very versatile and customable, and it can be created to mimic the effects of different materials like stone, ceramic tiles, etc., but much simpler to maintain than that. So in terms of sustainability, also polished concrete is seen as a green material because it makes use of the existing floor slab without any extra material. And cost-wise, polished concrete has a broad price range depending on the refinement of finish. But if you look at the life cycle cost, this is definitely worth looking at. So this one on the left side now is the stained polished concrete. The one in the center is dyed polished surface. And the other one is scored and patterned polished surface. So there are different types that you can look at. So these are all, polished concrete examples that are taken from projects. There is another one called polished overlay. You can put suppose you have a floor and you find it very inconsistent already and difficult to handle. You can put a thin overlay on top and polish the overlay itself. So that also is one way of providing a look of concrete, but without the underlying slab imperfections affecting your appearance. So this is also quite popular nowadays. So some of the common issues very quickly that it's very vital to take a step back and ask what both you and your client expects from the coloring process. And it's important to underline to the customer that it is stains and dyes are not going to give an opaque solid color, but a kind of variegated representation of color that shows off character. It's very important for a product finish to see that the concrete is fully cured, surface is clean, stain is applied in a way that it doesn't leave any application marks, residue is completely removed after the stain has reacted. This is also very important. But of course, today a lot of these stain removers and cleaning agents are available in the market to make sure that you remove all unnecessary things and marks before sealing the color in the concrete. Primary sentence is what you see is not what you get. The reaction process of the material will not reveal the actual color until the stain has completely reacted. So the surface is likely to change slightly its color, but still the beauty of the variegated surface will be there. So the best type of sealer should be applied for interior floors. Multi-component epoxies and urethanes are preferred. For outdoor applications, solvent-based acrylic sealers are available. So important to remember that each of the topical stains will behave differently with different substrates. And remember that these are materials which are only a part of what goes to a successful project. Consider each installation its own unique situation and do your homework before you start the project. That is, evaluate the surface, test the site with mock-ups, use the multi-component epoxies and other things for sealing, and confirm that your client understands the variations are inherent and expected with these kinds of products. Establish a proper protocol with your client for how the installation will be cared and maintained upfront. There are various other applications which are also colored concretes, colored concretes with polish. So what you see, none of them are granite or anything. All of them are concrete with this kind of finishes. This is concrete sinks and vessels. All of them are made out of concrete, mind you. None of them are made with marble or stone or whatever. So there are possibilities of making concrete furniture. Of course, they will be heavy, but then they can be extremely beautiful. Concrete outdoor, you have stamped concrete, as was mentioned, very popular in India already. And it involves the pouring of the slab concrete. And when the concrete is, just stiff enough, pressing it with patterns and textures before it is fully dry. So for many years, this was limited to duplicate patterns, but now a lot of stamped concrete with different textures, different colors, designs, what have you. If you want something to be written, your photograph to be put on the concrete, everything is possible. And the types of finishes are also cobblestone type, brick types, seashell type, and more are possible in concrete without putting those things. But you can bring in these effects depending, of course, it's a play of pigments and stains and so on and so forth. So every day can be a very artistic challenge for the person who's in charge of a colored concrete project. So the installation consists of pressing the molds, as I was mentioning, and it is achieved by using dry shakers and color hardeners, and then powder or liquid releases, which I said was invented long ago, and these products may be combined to create more intricate designs. With time, of course, color dyes may fade and surface may appear a little patchy and non-presentable, especially if there are varied types of uses within the outdoor area. People walk a lot, and areas, so it's better to demarcate them by different color bands, different textures, to make sure that it won't look very ugly. So there are, of course, recoloring options which are also possible, but then these could be having their own challenges by itself. But it is possible to rejuvenate the color and bring back the beauty of the stamped concrete. So these are some photographs of stamped concretes. You can see all of them look as if stone pieces have been kept, but none of them are stone. Everything is concrete. One concrete which is, you can see the bottom left hand corner, the center portion is also concrete, the outside is also concrete, but they are of different colors, different patterns, and different appearances. So this is the beauty of stamped concrete. You can see some concrete patios which are very elegant and beautiful, and there are some kitchen places which are also made out of colored concrete. So it's a beautiful thing. These are some of the finishes that are from the library of Ultratech, where I was working at various places. What they have executed looks very beautiful, and they have lasted for quite some time. Walls, you can have using your acid etching and coloring, you can make the walls look so beautiful. These are basically architectural walls. These are, they are actually behaving like structural walls, but then they have original artwork and other things which are built into it, and they are very popular now. There are people in India who are also specializing in this. Many architects are there in Pune and Gujarat and other places, Punjab. So there are people who are exploiting this particular aspect of architectural finishes on the walls using a combination of acid etching, dyeing, staining, and so on and so forth. So large scale images can be made. Of course, as Dr. Elson was mentioning, exposed aggregate concrete is another method of getting the aggregates which are inside the concrete exposed, so that you get a beauty by itself. It's also possible to like you do the shotcreting, you can hit the concrete surface with pebbles and other things to get the kind of surface that you want. So once this is done, the concrete is left to set and surface is removed. That is the first one which I mentioned. The concrete is left to set and surface is later removed by washing. You have some releasing agents also possible to get the kind of finish that has come with it by nature. So this is also possible, and there is also possibility of using what are known as form liners. So these form liners are actually regular form work. The inside of it is coated with these form liners which have built-in designs into it. So you make a colored concrete structural wall with form liners with the different shapes and designs, and using the positive and the negative, you can create a negative for whatever that you want to do. First you do it in clay or polyurethane wax, then the masterwork is finished and its cast is made using synthetic liquid rubber, and from this the liners are formed. So this liner is placed inside the concrete form and the concrete is poured. So I would show you some photographs. What is very important in designing this form liners is the absorbency of the form lining, surface texture of the form lining, the joints in the form lining, and the fixing of the form lining. All of these are likely to affect the final finish. So they have to be very careful in selecting and designing and providing the form liners. So with this form liners, you can have this kind of finishes. You can see now this is not a paint. This whole thing is made in the wall itself. This of course is from 1972, so we are not talking something very new. But you can build in any kind of image, any kind of texture on the structural walls using these formwork. Form liners. You can see this a water tank which has such beautiful images. This is also in combination with what Dr. Elson was mentioning, the self-compacting concrete. So the self-leveling concrete or self-compacting concrete will flow very smoothly into all these, the reverse imaging that is there in the formwork and create such beautiful finishes. And these finishes are permanent. As long as the concrete lasts, this finish will last. So that is the beauty of coloring the concrete using form liners. So another approach is, of course, there is very less time, but the fabric formwork. Now we are generally constrained by using, plywoods and polyurethane. Now, of course, some plastic formworks have come which can be of different shapes, but otherwise the the final shape of the structure gets decided by the formwork. So a lot of experiments are going on using fabric formwork, and this creates a lot of benefits in terms of not only the shape but also the surface characteristics. So they use sometimes a permeable formwork to produce surface finishes which are totally dramatic. So I'll show you some. This is a beam formwork. You can't make out that it's a formwork. It looks as if some cloth is draped over something. But then you can make a beam which is of this shape, as you can see on top of the photograph which appeared just now. It looks as if it is the bending moment diagram of a structure. Of course, we know that we provide prismatic beams because our formwork is prismatic. So if we can use fabric formwork, probably we can provide the beam, the cross sections more where you want it and less where you don't want it, so that you can even optimize. At the same time, it looks very unconventional and beautiful. So this is another ribbed T-beam that you see from the sheets of fabric it was done. Now, for example, the beauty is that the formwork is extremely lightweight. What you can see here in this photograph is the fabric required for a 5 meters beam, just liftable by one hand. And this is for a 12-meter beam. The fabric required to cast a 12-meter beam is only this much. A child can carry it. So it's a very lightweight, forming into whatever shape that you want, and you can get different shapes. So see, for example, this column, instead of being round or square or rectangular, is having its own shape. Now see this formwork, which is Y-shaped. If you pour concrete into this formwork, you get a concrete which is like this. This can be, of course, a beauty, but this can also be structural. They have tried. These look as if they are made out of some flexible material, but basically this is colored concrete poured into a fabric formwork. So you can see these finishes, very unconventional columns and very unconventional beams, which are produced using fabric formwork. Slabs also need not be just rectangular. It can even have a shape like this, what you can see at the bottom, using fabric formwork in the precasting place. Now in this, what you see at the back there, what looks like foam finish is actually made out of concrete. Now this formwork which appeared just now is for a wall which is supposed to have holes, and it's supposed to be like this, as you can see on the top of the right side. So this finish which you see right now is also a concrete which is got by using fabric formwork. Some trusses which are made using fabric formwork. Concrete can also be made to look translucent. Concrete is known to be an opaque material, but by mixing glass fibers, acrylic rods, or optical fibers, concrete is made to allow light to pass through partially, and you can get concrete walls. These are structural walls basically, of course, limited use of course, but they are translucent, so they can create some dramatic effects in certain buildings, certain parts of the building. So these are some of the insights into architectural and decorative concrete. Possibilities are very many, but then the time is also to be kept in mind. And I'm sure at least it would have, made you engineers and architects to look at the possibilities of using concrete as a material which is not only structurally useful and long lasting, but it can also be a treat to the eye. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, sir. It was indeed a great presentation, and certainly all the participants enjoyed it. And now we can, Kaushika, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will go for question answer session.
Yeah, we will go for some question answer section. Participants, you can raise your questions or you can comment in the comment box.
Now, question answer session. First question is, when we are saying that the strength is not compromised, then are we taking into account the stiffness aspect also, asked by Anubhav Sharma.
Yes, if we are using this as architectural concrete, we don't want to compromise on strength at any cost. That is one of the reasons why we are keeping the effect of the pigments to the minimum. So we use a very less percentage, less than 10% of the cement portion for pigments. So we cannot compromise on the strength. Strength is something which is paramount. These are all additional things without compromising the stiffness or strength of the concrete. So the advantage with these pigments is that these are not so reactive, and they don't chemically alter the gel formation or the speed or the behavior. So the strength is not compromised. So definitely strength will have to remain whatever is our expectation. We can play around with a little bit of chemical, concrete chemicals like super plasticizers and slightly reduce water cement ratio and achieve the same strength that you are planning to achieve.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, it won't react with admixture present. Is it true? Asked by Taslim Asfar.
Well, we can't say that it will not react. We better conduct some experiment. Generally, they don't. Generally, these pigments are not adversely affecting the work of because again, admixtures can be anything. They can be plasticizers, they can be accelerators, retarders, viscosity modifying agents, what have you. So depending on what you are using and in which context, it's always good to do some experiments and see, and or get hold of a good chemist and see if there is any adverse reaction between the chemicals that are there in the admixture as well as in the pigments.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, sir, is it cheaper than tiles or marble? Asked by Yeshwani Rai.
Yes and no. Suppose you want to import marble from Italy, it will be definitely cheaper than that. But if you are going in for a local marble which is available here, it may be a little costlier. But what you have to look at is basically the service that it can give. Now, vitrified tiles can break. You know, after let us say about 6-8 years, if one tile breaks in the center, you can't get the exact same shade of tile to replace it. You will be asked to replace the entire floor. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. This being integral with concrete, as long as concrete lasts, it will last. So, and because you are also using surface hardeners and these are super strong surfaces, generally anything falling on it also will not damage the floor. So the costing is to be looked at as a component which is having lifetime cost, maintenance, and durability, and so on and so forth in mind.
Thank you, sir. Next question is there any effect of mold release oil on colored concrete surface? Asked by Mahendra.
Definitely, the mold release oil that you use for normal concrete cannot be used here. You have mold releasing agents for colored concrete, which you will have to select and make sure that that is not having any adverse effect on the colors. Obviously, we are dealing with a lot of chemistry here, and we can't be using any material without considering the interaction between each other.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, what is the sound barrier and how it made with concrete? Asked by Kami Shetty Nikhilesh.
Sound barriers are basically walls which are having baffles, you know, which are having vertical, what you can say, exposed portions, which actually break the impact of sound. So in most of the Western countries, you would have seen that these kind of walls are built between the highways and the living areas, because the tire sound and the engine sound of large vehicles create a lot of noise for the occupants of the houses. So these are basically like sound breakers. Like in auditoriums, you use the side walls, which are basically the ones which absorb sound. So these are sound barriers. That is what it means. It lessens the sound to a to a permitted decibel level. It can be made with concrete. You could see some when I showed form liners. I showed some walls which had vertical fluting, which is basically which also can serve as a noise barrier.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, how can we get feather finish on concrete? Asked by Gaurav.
What finish?
Feather finish.
I don't know what you mean by feather finish. Concrete cannot be as soft as feather. Concrete can be made to look like feather, but concrete cannot be so soft as feather. So it will be hard, but you can play around with the designs and make it look as if it is made out of feather. Like one photograph I showed, which looked as if the wall is made of foam leather, but actually it is made of concrete. So it's possible to do this with colored concrete.
Thank you, sir. Next question is the durability is same for the colored concrete compared to conventional concrete? Asked by Anusuya.
Yes, generally the colored concrete durability is not very different from the original durability of the base concrete. If the base concrete is bad, colored concrete cannot improve the durability. But if the base concrete is very good, the colored concrete is not going to reduce its durability, because these are, some hardeners and sealers are used here. It can only enhance the durability. But functionally, the durability is a function of the base concrete. That also has to be seen.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, how can we give a wet look by a sealant to a concrete? Asked by Gaurav.
Well, wet look can be obtained by making it shine a little. Otherwise, you can't make it look wet by any other way, but you can make it have But these, see, basically what happens is even these, whatever finishes that we give, which are shining, are likely to absorb some dust, and the dust will stick to it, making it look dull. So, of course, people have tried with some titanium oxide kind of finishes where it absorbs all these organic and inorganic impurities, and it washes it down. So there are what are known as self-cleaning cements. So if you finish a concrete with that kind of a material, it is possible to keep it look shining for long. In fact, the when I mentioned architectural concrete and decorative concrete, I showed a church in Italy in that particular slide, which is that white colored, slightly bent side walls. So that is made with that kind of finish.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, how long does color concrete last? Asked by Swagatika Behera.
There is no age limit that can be fixed on concrete. How long will your concrete last? Now, nobody knows how long will the concrete last. Of course, it is designed for a period of 50 years or 60 years durability, but people are talking of 500 years durability. There is no fixed method to evaluate the age or the, if I ask you, how long are you going to live? You have no answer. You can say generally human beings live up to 80. And if those who are living beyond 80 are lucky, those who die earlier than 80 are not lucky.
Thank you, sir. Lot more questions are there. Time is less, so I will handing over to Dr. Elson Johnson, sir, for vote of thanks.
So thank you very much. Now we had a excellent session today, as expected, because Kalgal sir is always cool with that cute smile, always with a lot of technical contents. I had attended a lot of technical talks from Kalkal sir. It was an excellent talk. So all the participants benefited out of it, and for many of them, it will many of the things are a new concept. And in future, we can see lots of decorative and architectural concrete in our areas. So with this, as the time is lagging, I'm not extending. So thank you very much for being with us today and grace with your excellent talk, sir, in your busy schedule. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank the team Qcrete for associating and giving an opportunity to conduct webinars and technical programs. So I personally thank Kaushik sir and engineer Shelly Fernandez and all the Qcrete team for associating with the ICI. Next, I would like to thank all the participants. With your interactions and support only, we can conduct these programs and make it a success. So we have a list of participants who are continuously supporting and contacting us for more and more programs and webinars. Your discussions, interactions, and your suggestions makes us to better the program always. Thank you all for being at us today. Thank you. Thank you, Kalkal sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Qcrete India Private Limited, we heartily thank Dr. Kalgal sir for this wonderful presentation. Also, we thank all the audience who have patiently taken time to hear this beautiful lecture. Thanks, Dr. Kalgal sir and Dr. Elson John. Once again, thank you. Thank you. And thanks for Neelamma for taking this question answer session. Thank you very much. Other questions will be sent to Dr. Kalgal sir, and once we get the answer from Dr. Kalgal sir, it will be sent back to the people who have asked. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.